Welcome back, grade 11s. I hope you are more relaxed, and now let's take a look at our next topic, which is called transforming a business plan into an action plan. Now, when you are transforming a business plan into an action plan, you must first know what is a business plan and its purpose. You must then know an action plan that you need in order for you to have your project planning tools and know the project planning steps. Now let's look at the revising keywords that you will come across. We have a business plan, which is defined as a formal written document containing the goals of the business and how to achieve those goals. You then have an action plan, which is simply a checklist for the steps and tasks that need to be completed to achieve the goals you have set. You have what we call a Gantt chart, which is a bar chart that provides a visual timeline of how the tasks are scheduled. You then have a timeline, which is a sequence of related events arranged in a chronological order and displayed along a line to keep track of all the activities. Now let's take a look at a business plan. Now reminder that a business plan is a formal document that is written and explains the goals of a business and the information on how you are going to achieve those goals. So you need a business plan before you can start your business. Then we have an action plan. Now an action plan is simply a checklist of the steps and the tasks that need to be completed. Or in simple terms, it is what you need to take your business plan and transform it into an actual business. Then, why do we need these action plans? It is important because it enables the projects that you will be doing to be achieved within the correct time frame. So you are simply planning on how can I take my ideas and put them into reality and make sure that these things are done on time. It also helps you to assist the person who is responsible to be organized. So a person that looks at your action plan must know exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do it. Then, when you are having an action plan, there are different stages that you are going to go through. Now remember that this is just a reminder that when you are going through the stages, you are going to firstly have a planning of the business. What are you aiming to achieve? Then your goals that you set must be measurable and realistic. You must be also able, very importantly, to divide your tasks into smaller tasks so that it's easier to achieve. And then you must set deadlines for when these tasks need to be completed. Now, in order for you to take your plan into action, you need to have different planning tools, which we call project planning. Now, reminder that a Gantt chart is simply a bar chart that provides a visual timeline on how tasks are scheduled. So this makes it easier for the person that is planning the project to see what kind of task do we have and how long will it take for us to finish that task. And then you have a timeline, which is simply a sequence of related events as we have mentioned. What is most important for you to remember, grade 11s, is that all these must be arranged in a chronological order. For example, if I want to start a business, I cannot first start planning and say I want to advertise my product before I even find a place where I will sell the product. So when I am listing those the tasks, I need to set timelines of what are the tasks and what is it that is important to be done first. Then you have a project planning tool, which is simply a process of completing tasks within a time frame that you have set. Then let's look at the project planning steps. You need to first define the scope of the plan to be done. So in simple terms, you are explaining what are we planning and why are we planning it. You will then set time frames and milestone targets. So in other words, when you are planning, you will be able to know that once I reach this goal, it means that I have achieved a milestone. Then we have what we call starting a business venture on an action plan. So remember that in the first part, we were only looking at transforming our business plan into an action. So now we want to start the actual business based on the planning that we have done. And in order for us to do that, we need to know the factors to consider when initiating and before starting a business. We then need to consider funding. How are we going to get the money to start the business, and where are we going to get the money? And then what will influence the choice that we have made in order for us to get that funding? Then the revising keywords here is that you will see the word strategy, which is simply a long-term plan of action to achieve a goal. You also have cost savings, which is defined as the plans made by the business to cut costs or expenses of the business. You then have a business growth, which is simply defined as the expansion of the size of the business. We then have productivity, which is the effectiveness of the production in terms of the rate and output per unit of input. And then we have angel funding, which is when a wealthy entrepreneur offers financial help in exchange for a share in a business. Now, let's look at the factors to consider when initiating. Now, remember initially that I said to you that when you are initiating a business, you are simply sitting down and strategizing on your plan. What do you aim to achieve? And when you are planning, you need to have a strategy, which is simply a plan of actions to be carried out by you as the entrepreneur. You must also think about your operations. What are you going to do? What kind of activities are you going to do, and how are you going to do them? Then you must also look at productivity. How is it that your products are going to be produced, and do you want to produce mass production, or you are going to produce smaller products at a time? You must then also look at the size of your business. How big do you want your business to be, or how small is the business going to be? Now that will help you grade 11s to know what are the things that you then need to look at before you start the actual business. So now that you have an idea of the size and the structure and productivity, you must then look at the culture of the organization. So how do you want the business to be run? You are going to look at what kind of codes of conduct are you going to set for that particular business. Then you must look at environmental changes. How does the environmental change affect your business? Does it affect it in any way? And if it does, what are you going to do about it? You also look at customer services. How are you going to make sure that whatever it is that you are producing or rendering a service to your customer, how is it going to make sure that it leaves them happy and satisfied? You also need to look at the business growth. How are you going to grow your business once your customers have an idea of what product you are selling and they familiarize themselves with your products? You also need to look at cost saving. How are you going to save money to ensure that your expenses are at a minimum and your profit is higher? Now let's look at funding. Remember that before a business can start, you need to have capital, which is money used to start a business. So we need funding because we want to purchase our assets such as machinery and equipment and so forth. And then also you need to know that you need funding in a business so that you can grow the business. Now this will include producing more products or even having franchises of your business. Now let's look at the different sources of funding that businesses can have. You can either get money from the loan. Let me rephrase that. You can either get a loan from the bank rather, or you can have an overdraft, which is simply when you are withdrawing more money than you have in a bank account, and the bank will then decide how much more can you withdraw. You also have trade credit, which is buying products on credit and paying for them at a later stage. Now also, let's remind ourselves again that we have what we call angel funding, which is very important, which is when businesses or a wealthy entrepreneur rather offers a small business funding in return for a share in the business. Now, why is it that we have an influence, or funding that we have has an influence on us as a business? You must remember that when you are acquiring funding, you need to look at the nature of finance that you want. So if you want a bank loan, you need to consider, will you be able to pay back the loan on time with the given interest rates? You must also look at how much capital do you need. Now this will help you to know where are you going to get the source of funding, or where are you going to get the funding. You need to also look at the period of finance. So if you are getting money from the bank, you need to check how long they are giving you until you can pay the money back. Now, I know that I have said a mouthful, grade 11s, and that was a lot to take in. So I am going to give you a few minutes to relax, and then I will see you after an ad break.